All right, welcome in. This is Hawk Talk on Melrose. I am Collin, joined today with Tyler. Similar to the last episode, we're going to start with some Hawkeye Hoops as we are slowly building the roster for the 2025-2026 season. And then we'll get into some Hawkeye football as we are officially about 10 days left of spring ball. We're recording this on April 16th, plus the transfer portal did open today, so we got some news there. And that's going to be mainly this episode. So we're going to start first with basketball. Tyler, we finally got someone that was other than a Drake Bulldog, which once again, like last episode, I'm not mad about that. I like the Drake players that we're bringing in. I think all of them serve a purpose. They're all coming for a reason. Ben obviously wanted them. They wanted to continue playing for Ben. So I'm totally on board with those 5 players. But at some point, right, we needed some other type of players, and preferably for me, like I wanted at least another player that has power 4 experience, right? Somebody that's played. And we got somebody that started 33 games in a conference that is just as good as the Big Ten, if not better. I mean, you can make the case that the Big 12 is the best basketball conference in the country. And so I think it was a big time pickup getting Brendan Hausen. But before we get into him, though, I wanted to bring up, because I was planning on doing an episode shortly after the national championship game, never got around to it. But you had an interesting text to me after that game or during the game that I was like, man, I want to talk about that on the next episode. And so here we are. I know it's been about a week later, but it serves a purpose. And I'll let you say it because you're the one that texted about it.
So when you told me we're going to talk about this on this podcast, I went back and I found exactly what I texted you. So I'll read it here. I said, so just as watching this championship game, no wonder we could never do anything in the tournament under Fran. You can just see the toughness and physicality in this game. The way these teams compete on defense, absolute non-existent under that guy. So yeah, when you watch that game, Collin, it was a prime example of everything that Iowa wasn't under Fran McCaffrey. Physical is the first thing. When you look at Houston and Florida, the way that they were battling on defense, I mean, both offenses struggled, but I think in large part due to the fact that these teams know how to play defense. They know how to guard their guy one-on-one. Nothing easy to the basket. They had rim protection. The rebounding, the boxing out, just the little things that teams do when they're trying to win a championship, fighting for every loose ball. And I'm not saying that Iowa wasn't giving max effort, but I think defense was, I mean, we joke about it. Defense was an afterthought under Fran. He cared more about scoring 80 to 90 points a game and trying to outscore the opponent. And the reason that doesn't work in that setting is you look at Florida and you look at Houston, both actually really good offenses, struggled because they both were competing their asses off on the defensive end. And that's what happens when you get to tournament time. And so when I just watched that, it got me excited hearing all those things again that Ben talked about when he had his presser, right? Defense. If you're going to want to, play here, you're going to play defense. And I'm not saying we're going to be Florida or Houston, right? Especially Houston, like defensively. But I think it will start with that defensive mindset, and then everything plays off that.
Yeah, when the tensions are tight, when it matters most, when everybody's watching you, it's just a different type of mentality. And you see these teams that can shoot pretty good, especially in the Final Four where you're playing in like a football stadium, right? And the depth perception is different. Just don't shoot as good. And so you got to rely on the defense. You got to rely on getting stops. That Richmond game a couple years ago, we didn't shoot very good at all that game. We still should have won that game, though. We're the better team. But we just couldn't get stops when it mattered most towards the end of the game because our defense, our rebounding, everything is just really bad. And so, yeah, it's just a good point that you brought up because for us, and this is where, I was excited for a change with Fran because it just got to the point where you're never going to go far playing Fran style. And how do we know that? Because we endured it for 15 years and it never happened. Because you just can't go far not playing defense and relying strictly on, okay, we're just going to shoot lights out. Well, it's not going to happen in the Elite Eight, Final Four, national championship game.
And to a lesser degree, the other example is when we do shoot really well, give it, what is it, the second round in the Big Ten tournament this year against Illinois. Put up, 90 some points,
like 96
but then
points
and we gave up 104, 106, whatever it was, and we still lose by double digits. Only Iowa could lose by double digits in the Big Ten tournament by scoring 94 points.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. So let's get into the roster so far. And similar to last episode, we talked about, when we get this episode out, which it's going to probably be tomorrow, Thursday, we might land another guy between now and then. So bear with us. This is what we have as of now at 4:00 on Wednesday, April 16th. So we got the 5 Drake guys. We got Cooper Koch. And then we got Trevin Jirak from Valley in Des Moines, was committed to UNI. We got him. I'll talk a little bit about him here shortly. But then the big name that we just talked about like 5 minutes ago was Brendan Hausen from Kansas State. They call him the Amarillo Assassin, apparently. He's a high-volume three-point shooter, shot close to 39% from three, made 93s this year, which was third in the Big 12. Started 33 games, like I said before, which I think is big time. He's kind of a catch-and-shoot type of player, spaces the floor. I think he's going to work well in Ben's system. The con of him is he's not a very elite athlete. He's not really a playmaker. Like, he's just kind of a three-point shooter. Yep. And which isn't a bad thing because, like I said, space the floor. We need someone like that. We need some shooters on this team, especially losing Bryce Sanford, Josh Dix. Need some three-point shooters. Defensively, he's not really a lockdown defender. He does have size. Maybe that's something that he can get better at. But overall, though, this was a huge pickup for Iowa. A lot of teams were calling his name. I saw a report. You got teams like Kansas, LSU, like they were all calling him. Now, how serious were they? I don't know. Gonzaga. So this is a big time get for Ben. We need it. Once again, just a guy that played in the Power Four. I like all these Drake guys. I love Bennett Sturts, Cooper Koch, right? Great. And then whoever else we get, which we'll talk about here shortly, are guys that don't really have Power Four experience. So getting at least one guy that has Power Four experience, I think is big time.
Couple of things. You hit the nail on the head. I think, as of right now, he is coming in kind of just as a three-point specialist. I think I was listening to Legends and Listeners. I think it was that podcast, and they were saying how he's taken he has 450 career three-point attempts, and it's 60-some career.
He was at Villanova before.
Yep. So that was the other thing. He started off Villanova, obviously under Jay Wright. Jay Wright, the Hall of Famer, the national champion. That basketball team's always going to be very good. So he's coming in as a pretty good recruit, obviously, and then you get him, he goes to Kansas State. And what I like is the more minutes he's played in his career, the better, the more points per game he's averaged. So he's maximizing his minutes essentially. So that's the other thing. And then, he's coming in to be a three-point shooter. Maybe Ben can unlock some more to his game. I don't know, but right now, like you said, we need three-point shooting, and I think having a guy who's, like you said, played in the Big 12, arguably the best conference. And then the last thing, sorry, I just thought of it. The last thing I was going to say, and you talked about all the schools that were, recruiting him. The one thing that I saw was that he said he wanted to play for Ben McCollum. And that was one of the things that he took. That was cool. So for me, that's just another check mark for why I love Ben, right? I think a lot of players, they want to play for that smart of a coach that knows how to utilize their talents. So
then the other guy that we got, which was, I think last Friday we got him, Trevin Jirak from West Des Moines Valley. Once again, was going to go to UNI, decommitted, now coming to Iowa. Tip to me, he's kind of probably a year out from maybe being in kind of the rotation. He might play next year a little bit, right? He was 2025 Mr. Iowa basketball, Max Preps Player of the Year, 6'11", 230. So, he has the size. Obviously, he'll need to bulk up a little bit playing the Big Ten. To me, what impresses me is his skill set. I read where he used to be a point guard early on in his maybe freshman year, and then he had that growth spurt. And so he is a skilled passer. He actually led Valley with 92 assists this year, which is crazy for a center. Dang. He can handle the ball. He can stretch out. He shot about 38% from three, shot about 16 points per game. So That's really good, but I just think it's probably going to be maybe a year away. Ben talked with Chad on the podcast last week that, getting big men down low is really tough, right? Because there's a high price point for those guys. So you're going to have to build within and develop. And so this is exactly the type of player that you can do that with, very skilled. I think he's a mid-major recruit with a high major potential. So if you can get him in, develop him for a year or two, I think, and then you can retain him. I think he can be a really good player down the road for us. And who knows, maybe he will play a little bit next year. I don't know. It's really tough. Some of those guys, you're going from that to all of a sudden you're playing the Big Ten. It's a little bit different, right? We're just gonna have to wait and see about that. So as of right now, then, who else do we need? We'll definitely need at least another guard. Some players of interest. Nick Lewis, he's the 2025 recruit. 4-star, would be one of our highest rated recruits ever. Was originally committed to Xavier, decommitted, and now it's kind of down to Iowa and Vanderbilt. And I think Iowa's in great position to land him. Tanner Toolson, we just learned he's down to Iowa and TCU. He's a Utah Valley player. I think he averaged like 13 points per game, shot like 34% from three. So he wouldn't be bad. And the guy that I'm actually kind of hoping we get is, his name's Kennard Davis. He's from Southern Illinois, average a little over 16 points per game. He would be a nice addition as well. And sounds like Iowa has called him, so they're interested in him, but we'll have to wait and see. And then down low, and this is the biggest priority, right? We got Brendan Hausen, so the guard is not as big of a priority, even though it is. We still need at least one or two more. But the down low is we need to get some more bodies down low. And we got two in particular. Alvaro Folgueras, I have no idea, but he's from Robert Morris. He averaged like 16 points per game. Sounds like he has a high price tag. So Iowa offered him a lot of money, but then you're talking Villanova. They have a lot of money, so who knows about him? He would be a huge addition for us. And then Duke Brennan from Grand Canyon Valley, or Grand Canyon, I think it's just what the college is called. I think he averaged a little over 10 points per game, so he'd be another pretty big addition. Even if we don't get these two guys, I mean, we got to have a backup plan. We need at least, in my opinion, for me to feel somewhat comfortable going in next year, at least two more guys down low, stretch four, a center, something like that.
I feel like we've been missing that even under Fran.
But 100%.
Now, especially when the roster turns over like it did, for Ben, I 100% agree. You need, and he, like you mentioned, Ben talked about it. If he could load up on bigs all day, he said he'd do it in a heartbeat because you're just so hard to find. Yeah,
I just want somebody too, because I really like Cam Maniau, the guy from Drake. But I think for him, he'd probably be better suited either coming off the bench for us or maybe even sometimes floating over and playing the 4 position. So if you're able to get somebody that, could start, then you have that flexibility with him. So right now if you don't count Jirac, because once again, I just don't know if he's going to play a whole lot next year. So let's not count him. Let's just act like he's just going to be riding the bench all season, developing. So right now we have 7 guys that will all play. And so that's why for me, it's like, okay, we get another guard and then 2 more bigs. Then you're kind of at 10 guys, and you're in most games. You're only going to have, you might have a 10 player rotation. That's kind of a lot. I like kind of 8 to 9, but if you have about 10 guys that you feel comfortable with, and then the remaining 4 or 5 guys just ride the bench, that's a good thing to have. And so that's why for me, like my wish list, 1 more guard, 2 more bigs. All right, let's switch to football now. Today transfer portal opened up, and we actually saw someone today already go in the portal, Khalil Tate. Yep. And we've already seen 4 or 5 other guys. So this is the norm. I guarantee you from now until the portal closes on April 24th or 25th, so about a week from now, I guarantee you there'll be more. And there might be 1 or 2 that are surprising. There might be a guy where it's like, man, I'm surprised he's transferring. It's just a norm now. But the one I really want to talk about is obviously Brendan Sullivan. That was probably I wouldn't even say it was a surprise, because I was, to me, I would have been more shocked if he would have stayed than if he would have left. But it was still kind of surprising when it happened, because you thought maybe he would wait till after spring ball to do it. But last Friday, Brendan Sullivan came out and said he was transferring. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think knew he was going to be the backup this year. You don't bring in Mark Gronowski and pay him what you pay him to be the backup. You just don't. But at the same time, I guess selfishly, I was maybe hoping like maybe he liked Iowa a lot and wanted to see if he could get 5 plays a game, and that's what his role wanted to be, and then be the backup if something were to happen to Mark. But like I've talked about on this podcast, like guys just they want to play, and for a guy like Brendan, like honestly, I'm not mad at him. Like he
has one final year left. Needs
exactly. He's got 1 year left. And like honestly, I think he came in to Iowa with the expectation that he probably was going to be the starter this year if we didn't get anybody. And that's why I think he's kind of like, well, shit, that's not happening, and I want to play, and so he probably has to go down a level or maybe to
probably
like a MAC school. I think like no hard feelings. Like Brennan was awesome for and he came in and did more than a serviceable job at Iowa.
Gave us some excitement. Think about that Wisconsin game. I mean, that was one of the more fun games that I've been to in a long time because Iowa's offense actually looked good that day. Right. That
game was that one play, and I know that highlight's been surfacing where he like cuts right, stops on the dime, keeps out that guy. Just cool. Seeing that from a quarterback, hadn't seen that at Iowa in a hot minute. So I think that right there exemplified what he could do. But
I think I mentioned to you the other day when we were talking about this just over the phone, we kept saying, okay, yeah, if Brendan stays, we're probably still going to use him in the red zone, maybe do some different things for him. But the more you think about it, okay, if you're paying Mark as much as you're paying him, when you believe that Mark is the guy, like he's a quarterback, you don't need Brendan Sullivan in the red zone. You don't need him to come in and create excitement like you had to do last year because Cade, right? If we truly think what we know or what we think of Mark, like if we think he is going to be a really good quarterback for us, if he can translate from what he did at South Dakota State to Iowa, we don't need Brendan Sullivan. We don't need him down in the red zone. That's just, the more I think about it, like that is where I'm at there. It's if Mark is good enough, you don't need Brendan. We did need Brendan last year because Cade just was not that good.
You're exactly right. You said this like when we were texting or whatever, or maybe just talking on the phone, but like, and this isn't a knock on Brendan, but the reason that he got into the game is because our offense couldn't score in the red zone. And we just needed somebody dynamic to throw the defense off and make sure that they're not keyed in on Caleb Johnson every single play. And then, he got his opportunity because Cade got injured or played bad and got injured. But you saw over the course of those starts that I don't know if he's built to be the starting quarterback in the Big Ten.
And you said it like 5 minutes ago about, when he committed to Iowa, I guarantee you his thought process was, okay, I'll compete with Cade this year. And with Cade's injury, maybe I will play a little bit in 2024, but I'll be the starter in 2025. Right. And honestly, it might have been a blessing in disguise with Brendan having to play. It gave us the opportunity to really see, okay, is he the guy for us? Is he the man for us? And he had his chance this last year, right? He started some games. He's played in, some moments, but the inconsistency, and let's face it, can we really rely on him to go in the entire year injury-free? The style that he plays, right? Where he's a run-first type quarterback. Maybe in the offseason, maybe we could have got into where he wasn't, but I frankly think that's just his DNA. Run first. That's just who he is. And so if he was our full-time starter going into next year, like let's say we never got Mark, let's say he played okay this last year and he was our guy, that would be a lot of our topics this offseason is, can Brendan stay healthy the entire year? And I just don't know if he would. And then the last thing on Brendan, I just want to say this is kind of a trend, I guess, because he left Northwestern because he wasn't promised a role. And I kept telling you, that's one thing that makes me nervous about Brendan is how could he never be a starter at Northwestern? I mean, we're talking Northwestern here. We're not talking some dominant program that has just an insane number of great quarterbacks. No, we're talking Northwestern here. And he could never be the starting quarterback there where they were promising a starter role. And going into last year or last spring, he left after spring ball, so he probably wasn't promised a starting role. And so he dips, he leaves Northwestern. So it makes sense, right? Like when you look at that situation, same situation this next year, you're not promised a starting role. And frankly, you're not going to be the starter with Mark coming in. So he dips. And More power to him. I mean, I'm not mad at all. I mean, if I was him, I would do the same thing. Why ride the bench your final year? Why not go somewhere and try to play? Unless there's some players that probably don't mind doing that, but I'm sure his competitiveness. No, he wants to play his final year. So I totally get it. All right, let's move forward now. Then we're going to kind of end just talking about the portal. Guys obviously leaving, but then now it's all about trying to add some guys to the portal. So what I kind of want to go through is position by position of the priority of should we go out and get somebody in, a specific position? And we'll just go kind of quick here, but quarterback, I would say low right now. I mean, maybe if you wanted to go out and get another quarterback, but right now we have 5 quarterbacks now. So if Lester wanted to go out and get another one, obviously not going to play. I mean, you got Mark, you got Hank, you got Jimmy or Jack Stratton, you got Jimmy Sullivan, Fitzgerald's son. I can't think of what his first name is. I think we're good there. I don't think we need to go out and get a quarterback just because Brendan left. Running back, I think that's low at this point. Unless we see somebody leave, I'm really happy with Jazz and Moulton, and you got TJ Washington, who I think is going to play more running back this year than wide receiver. I talked about that on the last episode. So I'm okay there. We got some younger guys. Wide receiver, though, this one's interesting to me. I think medium. I think if there's somebody out there that maybe sparks your interest, I say we go after, because you can never have enough wide receivers. Plus, I also think, Tyler, that I really believe, and I hope I'm wrong here, but I believe at least one wide receiver will go in the portal, just because we don't have some dominant wide receiver core, correct, but we actually have a lot of guys. Like we talked about on the last episode, we got 8, 9, 10 guys that I think could all play. And so I could see somebody that gets buried to maybe leave.
First of all, you can never have enough wide receivers, especially if a wide receiver goes down. Having another guy step in is always obviously key, especially for Iowa and our wide receiver injury history in the last few years, it seems like. But there's a lot of guys, like you said, there's a lot of guys that I feel like get mixed in, that are in the mix, that are in certain plays. Like you saw last year, we had a lot of guys play, but if a guy's not getting enough playing time, or maybe he's, like you said, he's not the starter, but he knows he could go somewhere else, I wouldn't be shocked by that either. I could see a guy entering the transfer portal.
So I could see maybe one leaving. So once again, that's a medium. Now remember, go back to last spring. This one was high. We needed at least one.
Years has been high. So
and we got
that's a good sign.
Jacob Gill, which was a nice little piece. And that's where it's if somebody's out there, right, you might as well take a look. Just not a huge priority. Tight end, even though we lost Gavin Huffman, I still think that's low. We're bringing in 2 or 3 guys. I feel good, Astringa and some of the other players. So I would say low there. Now, offensive tackle. This is the one for me. I think it's very high at this point, because I believe, I said this to you maybe 2 months ago. I said if Iowa is reaching out to offensive tackles, which we know they are because they're already having a guy visit, Bryce George, then that they're not 100% sold on Trevor Locke or Jack Dotzler as the left tackle. Correct. Right? We're good on right tackle. James Dunker, great. But we might not be sold, or we don't feel comfortable with the depth, because if Jenny Dunkers goes out, then we're really screwed, right? And so I think it's a major priority we get at least one more guy, whether it's just for depth or to start. Bryce George, he's going to be visiting today or sometime this week. It sounds like there's 3 schools that are really interested in him: Iowa, Cal, and USC. He's from the Midwest, so I think Iowa maybe holds that advantage. He's from D2, so I get it. But he's an All-American, 2-time All-Conference. He's 6'5", 315, so he fits the bill. And so I think that would be a really good pickup for us. But if we don't get him, I think we need to get at least one more guy. I really like Trevor Locke, but maybe he's still a year away, right? And I'd rather be, especially with an offense that I feel really comfortable with Mark Gronowski, I want to be good at that left tackle spot. That's a really big position. Yeah.
Big things to protect Mark, right? Yep. That's the key here.
So that's a huge priority for me. Even if we have to spend a lot to find somebody, because I know the supply and demand for offense tackles, especially the left tackle spot, is pretty high. So it might cost, but Bryce George, I think, would be a nice pickup for us. Interior O-line, I think low. I think as of right now, Bo Stevens, right? We got guys there. I'm feeling comfortable with them. Defensive end, I say low as of now. Defensive tackle, even though we got two guys, Jonah Pace and Bryce Hawthorne, I said medium. I might change this to maybe high, maybe getting one more guy, because you can never have enough D tackles. What did we talk about in the last episode? Exactly. That position last year was, I think, some of the reason why we just weren't that good defensively last year. I know we can blame the secondary, but we need depth at defense tackle spot. I wouldn't mind going out and getting one more guy.
You said it perfectly. Just go watch our last episode, and we talk about, I think, our defense, our secondary, the production dipped, and I think part of that is not generating enough interior pressure on the quarterback, as well as even stopping in the run in some of those games. So,
all right, next linebacker, I'm going to say low, but similar to a few years ago where, kind of Nick Jackson just kind of came out of nowhere, and, it was a perfect fit for us. I think for that, it's like, if there is somebody out there, I feel comfortable with Shar and, Jaden Harrell, but if there's another Nick Jackson out there, you might as well take a look and just see. But I'm going to say low for now. I think there's other areas that we really need to focus on first. Corner, high, really high here too. Similar to offensive tackle. I just think we need at least one more guy that can come in and compete. Once again, I'm not sold on TJ Hall and Deshaun Lee. It's been a few years now. It seems like every year, your hope is they get better. And I thought their growth would be from, go back 2 years ago to last year, and we just didn't really see it. They just didn't look that much more improved. Could they look improved this year? Maybe, but I don't know. At this point, I haven't seen it, so it's kind of hard for me to say that's going to happen. So if you can go out and you can find somebody that, even if it's somebody like that guy from Illinois State who had, really good stats. I know it was Illinois State, but that's kind of a guy that could come in and kind of a plug and play guy right away. Right. And then you still got some of those younger dudes like, Jalen Watson and Godfrey and players like that are maybe still a year away. I think that's a huge high as well. And then safety, low. I feel really confident with our safeties. I just hope Xavier can have a good final year and play to his potential as a 5-star. And then obviously special teams, I'm good with kicker, punter, long snapper, maybe. I know that's a position that you don't really think about, but we had a really good long snapper the last few years, and he's gone now. So maybe there, but yeah. So for me, offensive okay. So medium for me is wide receiver. And then high for me is, and then maybe defensive tackle, if you want to say medium to high, kind of in between for me. And then high is offensive tackle and corner.
So I got a question for you. So if you get one wish and you get one position to transfer in, who do you want?
It all depends on who it is. If you told me right now that it was a corner that was pretty damn good, I would say corner, right? Because I just want at least one side of the field covered.
Yep.
But at the same time, for me, I know how important having a really good left tackle is. And if we just don't feel that comfortable with Dotzler, Trevor Locke, and our depth there is not very good outside of Jennings, Dunker, I'm going to say right now, honestly, you're going to be surprised. I'm going to say offensive tackle. I really want to be good there.
Makes sense.
We are very veteran on the offensive line, right? You think about 3 guys that could have all left and potentially get their names called next week in the NFL draft. Jones, Bo Stevens, and James Dunker. All three of those guys would be on NFL rosters this next year, but they all chose to come back. So you got those guys, and then they feel really comfortable with Cade Piper, the other guard. It's just that left tackle spot that's just a little hairy, and that's a very important position. And we're talking, this is a year that hopefully the offense can take that next step with a better quarterback. You want to be good there. You want to be, solidified there. And so getting a guy that you feel comfortable with, there you go. You're good then on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, that's really the biggest question mark on the offensive side of the ball right now. With corner, if we end up not gaining anybody, I will say at least we got guys that can at least play, right? Like Deshaun Lee, he has a lot of career starts. TJ Hall, a lot of career starts. And then you got some younger guys that do have a lot of potential, that are very athletic. Jalen Watson, Godfrey, players like that. So Alex Mota, who used to be a wide receiver, converted to a corner. And plus, you got to trust the GOAT, Phil Parker. I know last year wasn't a great year in the secondary, but you got to trust him that they'll get things figured out. And so right now, unless you tell me that it's just some stud corner, I'm going to go offensive tackle.
Yeah, no, I would have said corner, but you might have persuaded me. I think we talk about all the time. Teams that win are teams that are good in the trenches, defensive, offensive line.
Yep.
And you don't have a left tackle. What gets paid in the NFL, right? Quarterbacks, left tackles, and defensive ends,
exactly.
Right? So premier positions.
Mason Richmond, he wasn't like that good, but he was pretty solid for us. And so, that's a pretty big loss.
Played a lot too, yeah.
He played a lot of snaps over the course of the years. If you told me right now that we were bringing back Richmond too, I would be like, man, our offensive line, like I'm excited for it. It's just that one position, man, I'm just a little nervous about.
I'm just the TJ Hall, Deshaun Lee. I'm just not. I'm kind of with you. It's like, man, I really hope they take the next step because
at least one of those players is going to start probably all year, right?
Yes.
Whether it's TJ Hall, I'm not really sold on Deshaun Lee so much. I hope that he can improve. With TJ Hall though, is he has the size, like he's 6'2". He has all the attributes to be a decent corner. And so hopefully it translates, like it just comes. Yeah. So that's kind of the portal priority for right now. If you told me right now, when it's all said and done, end of May, right? Because usually mid-May, end of May is when you kind of have the roster solidified. If we can get 2 or 3 more guys in the spring portal window, I think that's great. If you told me right now we're getting an offensive tackle, we're getting a corner, we're getting another defense tackle, who knows?
What's the roster size got to be when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I was going to do an episode about that at some point too. 105. And right now, I guess I have it right here because I kind of chart it myself. On3 does a distribution chart, and they might be right. I've been tracking it. They have some guys they still have James Razar, and I'm almost positive he's in the portal. I'm almost positive he went in the portal in the winter, and they still have him part of the roster. I'm not including him in it. So I have right now 78 scholarship players and 25 walk-ons for 103, and you got to be under 105. The goal is, like most teams, they want to have 85 scholarship players, 20 walk-ons. So right now we're over the walk-on limit. Now I do think players like Caden Weegan, Hayden Large, they're probably going to be on scholarship, so they're going to be removed, but you're still going to want to you're going to have to, hopefully, some guys leave from the walk-ons to get down to 20. And then, if you go out and get some portal players in the spring to get up to 85. So right now we're at 103. I think On3, they're either at 102 or 104, and they might be right. I'm not saying I'm right. The way I'm tracking it, there's just a few players. There was another guy too. There was another walk-on that they didn't have on their chart, and I'm pretty sure he's still on the roster. So who knows? Okay. Regardless, though, I think we are under 105. Whether On3's right, whether I'm right, we're under 105, so we're good. But if we get some more spring portal guys, then we're going to need some guys to obviously leave to get to 105. So,
and we talked about it. I think the spring portal window just opened up, so I think you'll see a few guys leave.
Yeah. The hope is, though, it's nobody that you're really questioning, like, how is he? He's going to be a starter. It'd be like if Kamari Moulton went in the portal. He's literally slated to start, so there must be some issue there. But if it's guys that are kind of buried, like Khalil Tate, the corner, it kind of makes sense for him to leave. He's probably never going to play. So it is what it is.
Yep.
But, that will do it for this episode. We are going to be back. We'll probably take a week and a half off, but we will be back after the spring game because we are going to that.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Who knows? I'm sure it's just going to be a small practice. There are going to be guys out, but it'll still be fun to kind of go and see. And we'll see our potential 2026 starter out there in Hank Brown now that Brendan Sullivan's gone. So he's going to be probably taking the first team reps because I'm guessing Mark, they might have him do a little bit that day, but they're probably not going to have him do a whole lot. So Hank's going to get bulk of the action. So it's going to be kind of cool watching him, seeing, what his arm looks like, his throwing. And then, just seeing just the team in general, even though there will probably be a lot of guys out. Can't take anything away from it. Similar to the Kids Day, you can't really take a whole lot away from that either. But it's still kind of cool to go and just kind of watch them. So we'll be there, and then we'll have an episode out of day or two after that, and then we'll just kind of see what all happens with basketball and then with football with the portal. So, all right, well, that will do it. Thank you guys all for listening. Until the next time, have a good one and go Hawks.